Welcome to Key Conversations, the podcast where we talk about all of the things that can hopefully inspire you to create a sustainable and fulfilling music career. This season, season 4, I'm talking about all the things that we need to know to make a record. And I'm sort of in it myself with my record luminary. And today we are talking about photography, specifically photo shoots, either for the press around your album, if you're not going to have a photo of yourself on the album, or your album artwork. And I'm so excited to have one of my favorite photographers that I've ever worked with, Peter Berube, all the way from Los Angeles, on this call. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited. What's up, everybody listening?
What's up? Give us just the nutshell of who you are, what you do, because you're an amazing, super talented photographer. You capture my pretty side 100% of the time. It's really remarkable because there are so many not pretty sides. Y'all.
Oh, don't. That's not true.
You're very talented, but you're also an actor and you do a lot of amazing other things, and you're just a cool human being. So give us the nutshell of you, and then we'll dive into what artists can do to really optimize this process.
Sure. Yeah. So I am an artist of wearing many hats. What's interesting is I'm mostly an actor and a writer, but I started out doing photography. I probably started doing photography when I was 6 years old and got a camera and would just kind of wander around shooting whatever I was inspired by. I do voiceover, I do podcasts, I do stunt work and stuff like that. My thing as an artist is I just sort of follow my thread of inspiration, and I love challenging myself. So I do my best to limit the number of hats I wear, but then I always get
inspired
by something and, I get carried away. That's my thing.
I understand that. This year might be the first year that I'm only focusing on 3 major projects.
Yeah, that's tough. 3?
Yeah.
I can't.
I know. It's a thing. So, So anyway, any website that you go to of mine, including my Luminary website, you guys will see work that Peter's done. So that's sort of fun. So when I show up to a shoot with you, I usually have a couple of outfit changes because I never know what's going to really look good on camera, and B, it's nice to have a couple different outfits and not have the same promo shot. For Facebook header look the same as my profile picture, as the same as the inside of the album cover or whatever. So I have different outfits to sort of get a different feel. And then I just kind of take direction from you. But what's really helpful before the shoot from an artist standpoint that they can do to help you get a clear vision?
Well, the biggest thing as a photographer is trying to capture somebody's essence. The whole point about creating art is that you have your own unique voice that you're speaking through. And as a photographer, your goal is to capture that. You're trying to capture something that is there in front of you. And so my main job is to make the environment safe, to make it an open collaboration where we can do a dance. There's a lot of people that will walk into a space with a very, very specific idea, and I want to do this thing and shoot this specific thing that I've already pre-thought about. And then when it doesn't look that way, they get frustrated and they lose momentum. I look at it far more like a collaborative process where you're going to come up with ideas, I'm going to come with ideas, and we're going to try stuff. And in that trying stuff, there's going to be failure. There's going to be shots that look terrible. But if you don't take those risks, you miss like those golden nugget moments. Like when I find a shot that is amazing, I lose my mind. I get so emotionally excited. And I don't know if I'm going to ever find that shot unless I'm willing to sort of take some steps and follow that thread to see where it's going to go.
That's cool. So coming with an open mind, a little bit of the idea of partnership. Yes. If you are really, really specific, I mean, I know that I had ideas of what I wanted. I wanted a softer look this time around. I mean, my meditation thing. So I think I put together a Pinterest board, and I did was I and you should tell me if this was helpful or not, but I pulled a bunch of images. I was like, I found these images. Here's a Pinterest board. I don't know why I like these. And you said to me, oh, all these images have like bright sun rays. We need to shoot at 6 a.m. And I was like,
yes.
Oh, damn, A, B. Good on you. You saw I was like, I don't know what I like about these images.
Yeah.
But there's something that's calling to me. I wouldn't be sad if my images look like this. And you were able to extrapolate the feel or the vibe, or at least get an idea of what I was open to. So that was something that would help the process a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, a Pinterest board is super helpful. You know, when you're talking about different arts, it's some things get lost in the translation, and there's just, you might say a word that makes me think of a different thing, and we're not thinking of the same thing. So having something that is a grounded visual element like Pinterest, so you can put those images together. I went through this experience with my girlfriend. She's great at picking out clothes, and I'm terrible. And we went shopping, and I would walk around. And she'd be like, "What about this? What about this?" And I made everything into she made everything into A and B answers. And then from that, she was able to extrapolate. Great. You like shirts with patterns that are not like this, but have this element. You like jeans that have this. And I didn't know that about myself before that. Before that, it was just an overwhelming, I need clothes that look good, that are me, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a great segue to the next point. I've done a couple of shoots with you. One of them, the most recent one, I was pretty clear on the clothes. I'm actually wearing the sweater I wore in the day.
Oh, yeah, you are. Great.
But in a previous shoot, the one that we did in New York City, I really didn't know what the look I wanted. And you were working with someone at the time that was able to help style me. So we just went to H&M, and it wasn't expensive. I was like, I have a $75 budget, and we got 3 outfits there. And what, I feel like that could be something to, as well, as if someone has someone that they can sort of look to, and how do you work with that person in terms of getting the vision? If there's more than just the artist, like, how do you work with
Yeah. Well, I mean, working with a team is always great because you get people that are good at different aspects of it, and they can help speak the language that you're missing. So I couldn't tell you what to go into a store and pick out clothing wise, but I know that there are people that know. What I can do as a photographer is I can see sort of what pieces look well on you, both as like skin type and tone and fit. But I would never I can do the A and B answer, yes or no.
Yeah.
I can't do here's how to paint with that number.
Right. You're not going to come up with it from your head, but when you see it, you know that it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. Having options is a huge thing. If you're going to any kind of photo shoot, the more options you bring in, the better. I do a lot of headshots for people, and I will have people walk in with their full wardrobe, which is not being specific enough. And then I will have people walk in with 2 items, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with these because both these items are wrong. Like they're actually not doing the thing that you're trying to do in the visual medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do your best, bring in what options you have, and go from there.
Awesome. Really great. So, okay. So say we've sent you the Pinterest board, we've got a vision together, we've got some outfits, we've gotten our hair did and our makeup done before we show up. And now we're at the 6 a.m. or whatever convenient time you've chosen. Once they're there, then it's kind of, I always feel like I have to really surrender and get vulnerable, which is hard to do if you're meeting a photographer for the first or only second time. And luckily we've worked together enough that I know that I can just go right there, and we can keep the time short and all that. So what's the best thing an artist can do? Sort of slide into that. Okay, now I'm the subject of a photo shoot, and I'm not a model. This is not my thing. I write music. This is like, I don't do this camera thing. What are some ways that they can get comfortable the quickest to help you do your job the best?
Sure. The number one tip that I tell everybody is breathing. You may not be aware, but like the moment that you start thinking, you stop breathing, which is like you being in your head, you judging a moment, and the camera picks up on that. So if you find yourself stressing out, check and see if you're actually breathing through your nose, your sort of like particular breathing. Because a smile can go from something that's warm and inviting to terrifying the moment that you stop breathing. The other thing I would say is, you've got to, working with your photographer is actually more about trusting in the fact that most of the time when you work with professional models, all they're doing is sort of moving around in different poses and having sort of a neutral essence to who they are. They're actually not showing me very much. They're just sort of being in that space. And then I, as a photographer, am using the environment and your angles and all those things to capture and paint the picture myself. So you don't have to be showy or don't show me that you're happy. You just have to sort of like zen out, think of puppies. I'm a huge thinking of puppy fan. And then if you're finding that your photographer is very technical and not creating the space for you to do that, ask them to slow things down. you know, make sure you're mindful and breathing themselves. Because there's some photographers that are just technical. They'll just be like, aim your chin here, do this, blah, blah, blah. And it'll get a visually blank photo, emotionally speaking. But your essence is going to show through because you're like tense and you're not breathing.
Yeah. So in a perfect world, you get a little bit of both of like the Zen space, but then I know you've also been like, no, you need to move your arm like literally 1 inch that way. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you get technical, but it's also to really bring out the essence. And that's what you're looking to sort of.
Everything has to be about creating a safe space because it is risky, because a lot of times there are people that are not models that, you know, are being photographed, and, you know, you are being vulnerable. It's a real thing.
So we're in the photo shoot, and to me there are sort of two kinds of shoots, and I've done one of each with you. I think a couple of each. One is in the studio where it's like a drop cloth in the back and you're really getting that. Like I did one for my website so that I could sort of use a transparent background, cut out all the white space behind me. And in those and I've done other studio shots that are like, you're just in a room and maybe you go by the window or the wall and there's not much location. But then we've also done one where we're like running around Manhattan in 98-degree weather, or a Los Angeles dog park or something.
Right.
So what other tips can you sort of give, especially if you don't know the setting and where the shadows are going to be, if you're especially outside, what tips can you give artists to sort of get into that, go with the flow, even though it can be a little stressful? You're like, these are my press photos for my new album. This is my baby. Like there's a lot of pressure internally on us as the subject, but we also know, okay, we need to be breathing and zenning out and like running around this dog park in the mud. Like how do you find the balance? What could you tell artists to sort of take on?
Yeah. The biggest thing is you have to stay in discovery mode. If you are walking in trying to hit a very specific checklist that you want to look in a specific way, you are going to make choices in the beginning and also be willing to let them go. So if you are in that mindset, you're constantly going to be comparing what you're getting against what you want to be there. And there's really no way to win that fight. So make a plan for the day. And then keep your eyes open. That's what I mean sort of about being discovery mode. Look around. There might be a tree that you see that you didn't think about. There might be the sun is hitting something in a specific way, which is not the place you initially wanted to shoot, but it in this moment looks a lot better. So getting away from crafting and staying in discovery mode is the best way to get the best photos for a shoot like that.
Yeah. I've had to really let go of thinking that the scenery was going to make the photo. It really is about what you're saying, that essence of in capturing me and the emotion. And I used to think it really mattered where we were. And I would go to all these great lengths to be like dressed in a little skirt in a snow mountain, you know, like it doesn't need to be like so dramatic. It can be really simple. And, you know, when I was like, oh, there's a dog park near my sister's place, can you meet me here? And you're like, yeah, sure. We'll find a bush. We'll find a flower. Like, and it was really true. Like it didn't matter. So I had to sort of let go that it wasn't about me, because it is about me. But
I mean, that's the thing with different photographers is you learn to paint with different things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like I can isolate the rest of the world. If I'm doing like a headshot, I only need like something textured in the background. It's not as important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we talked about the before the shoot. We talked about during the shoot. Anything to talk about after the shoot? So, you know, the shoot's done. Generally, photographers take a couple days to maybe a week or two to edit. And so what's that process like? How can an artist really support you and make that process go really easy?
Well, one of the biggest things is selecting the photos. I mean, you get, you know, it's a digital world now, so you can shoot digitally, which means you get a lot of pictures to choose from. And you know, there's a lot of times where people will choose when it's like, I really love how I look with this, but that's actually not how the rest of the world sees you. So I always recommend that you share them, talk to people, show them the people that you know. And the biggest thing is which photos make you stop scrolling. So if I send you a bunch, which ones do you stop and look at for a second? Because that's ultimately the key element of marketing and doing promoting stuff is like, there are so many different visual things that are happening, whether you're in a record store or whether especially if you're online. And the whole point is no matter how good the photo is, it's not any good if it doesn't make you stop. And if you're sort of like looking at it yourself, you're looking at it yourself from the lens of like, how do I look in this photo and how do I feel about myself versus like, what is actually a phenomenal photo that makes me stop and pay attention. So share with your friends is my biggest piece of advice.
That's awesome. And I know that it's also really good to be mindful about what the expectation is. So, this in terms of how long we're actually going to be shooting from the second we show up to the second. So it's a 3-hour shoot. You can change 3 times or 5 times or whatever, get those parameters, and I'll edit 10 photos. I'll give you 200 photos and I will be editing 10. And also I think it's important to just say, like, get in writing that you own the rights to that. So it's always nice. I try to credit as often as possible. Sometimes a magazine takes a photo and doesn't credit the photographer, or you're using the photos on your website or on social media and there's no space for the credit. So, are you paying for that right to be able to use them anywhere, or to edit them yourselves, or to maybe put a different filter on just for different purposes? So just knowing that, like, okay, I'm going to get these 10 photos and maybe I really like 3 more, having a conversation and being really open, like, hey, I'm willing to pay, what's your like per photo edit? I'm willing to pay that, and just be ready to know what all the things are before you even get into the shoot itself, the shoot before, during, and after.
As a general thing, having good boundaries is good across the work life in both like business and relationship and stuff. But it's, it helps make things clear for both parties. It also sort of like helps the sort of frustration on the back end of things. The more clear you can be up front, obviously the better. Yeah. Those are all great things.
Yeah. Super great things. Where I'm trying to keep this season really short and actionable and super clear. Is there anything else that you can think of to tell a musician who's about to get some art for their CD and or the press around this new record that you think would make a difference for their next photo shoot?
I would say, kind of along the Pinterest line, do some research. Your thing as an artist is what is your unique voice. And that also applies to the media that you are drawn to. So do some shopping around, look at photos and go, oh man, I really love these. Put a collection of photos together and then see if you can find what your own through line is of being like, oh man, I find that I'm really drawn towards like moon style pictures. I really, these night shots are really interesting to me, or I love nature. I love having things that are framed, or I love having things that are symmetrical. Doing some research for yourself just helps you get more specific, and then it also helps the photographer get specific, so you both know what you're walking into and what you're trying to accomplish.
That is so brilliant. I love it. Tell us where we can find you online. Where's the best place for people to go to find you?
The best place to find all of my things is my website, which is peterberube.com. I would also say Instagram is probably the best place to track me. All my acting and projects are on @Peter Berube, but my photography is all @P.Berube Photography. So Instagram's the place.
I will have all 3 of those in the show notes for this. Thank you so much for letting me steal a little bit of time. I know you're a busy creative guy. So thanks so much for this.
Yeah, no problem. This was super fun. Thanks.